This is Team 3's Lean Project presentation. We did our presentation on Target. So it's Kim, Justin, Logan, and Chris. Alright, so for our executive summary on Target, obviously Target is a brick and mortar store, and they're doing everything that they can to continue to keep their business in store, and obviously still focus on their online sales as well. So they're trying to kind of navigate both worlds. In doing so, Target has really stepped up their game and kind of came up with a lot of new processes very quickly. And because of all those new processes coming out and how fast they came out in order to stay on top of the competition and keep themselves apart from the competition, there's a lot of waste in them. So as you'll see in our presentation, where a lot of that waste is and how we can continue to help give them ways that they can change and get rid of some of that waste. So in order to stay relevant, like I said, they've been really focused on improving their processes, but just doing so really quick, and that's why there's a lot of waste that we have helped find. By improving the process, they can also be more efficient, but able to still continue to give their customers a streamlined experience to make their shopping trips more enjoyable. So we've chosen 4 major problems that, if fixed, they can really help set themselves apart from the competition. And those 4 problems are: Target has limited space on the sales floor, but could offer a larger variety of clothing and goods. Lack of accurate feedback. Self-checkout program problems. Again, just move too fast on that. And logistics sort and push process. So those are all the problems that you'll see that we'll talk a little bit more about. All right, so problem identification. We kind of went over this in the last slide in the executive summary, but I'm just going to briefly go through them all. So the inability to offer a larger variety and quantity of on-hands of its product due to limited floor space. Not receiving accurate feedback on surveys to help improve customer service. Quickly implemented self-checkouts in most stores, causing problems with the programs. And issues due to changing supply chain. One major issue is Smart Sort, which was recently implemented into the individual store's truck unload process. And all of these we'll kind of go in more detail with in the next few slides. All right, so this is our Target's Logistics Smart Sort Unload Process current state map. So this will show you that we concluded it ends up taking 21 hours to complete 8.5 hours worth of work. So that's showing you that there's a ton of waste in this new process. And as you can see, we chose the first, the second, and the fourth process to fix in order to eliminate some more waste. And you'll see that a little bit more in the next couple slides. Right, and just talking about the current value stream map that we just showed. So when Target decided to update their unload process, the unload actually takes longer now, but the product gets to the floor a lot faster and more efficiently because of the Smart Sort system. However, within that system, there's still a lot of improvement that can be made, and we showed that by the 8.5 hours to do 21, or taking 21 hours to do 8.5 hours worth of work. So we're kind of working on eliminating some of that. So waiting in motion was eliminated by this new way of sorting the truck. So in the past, it was unloaded quickly, but it was sorted just by main departments, and then the entire team, after the unload, went and pushed off the pallets and just kind of pushed wherever things went. So it took a lot longer to push and get the items to the floor. So with Smart Sort, the product is not just sorted by department, but down to the aisle. Softline's items are sorted into repack boxes off the truck, but then sorted again down to the area. So that's kind of one of those areas that we decided to eliminate some waste in. Once the team is there to push the product, so that a lot of them come in a little bit later, and then they begin pushing right away. So it's faster for them to push because they get to know the areas that they're pushing. They push that same aisle, same areas every single day. So they get to know the product, they get to know where the product is located, and that right there reduces a lot of motion alone. So it was concluded that it takes 21 hours to do 8.5 hours worth of work. So obviously still showing a lot of room for improvement, and you'll see that on the next slide where we chose to make those improvements. All right, so this is our future state map, and you can see that the waste we got down to, it takes 17.5 hours to do 7 hours worth of work. So we're able to eliminate some waste, but still a long ways to go. And you can see that because of that, we chose to again have some Kaizen bursts on the second, the fourth, and the fifth process, because those are just ways that we know that we can eliminate it even further, continue to eliminate some more waste. So for takt time, we figured out that it takes, or that the takt time is approximately 23.33 minutes. And then from the takt time, we're able to then figure out that it would take 22 workers for that process as well. Okay, and so after looking at the processes, like I said, we saw different ways that waste could be eliminated. So one way is by creating pre-marked vehicles. So as unloading, sorting at the same time, it's easier to navigate where that product is going while flowing off the line instead of just kind of throwing it into any vehicle. These vehicles will be specially marked for that. Also, instead of waiting until after the hardlines truck is done being sorted, softlines is now sorted at the same time with a separate sorting team who will learn the area better. So we figured this would be a good way to eliminate some of that waste if they did that. Also with softlines, instead of making sure to sort to the style size within each department, also to make it more efficient pushing, but instead of kind of doing it into boxes and then sorting it, they would just be sorting it at the same time now, to kind of eliminate a lot of that waste there. So by doing so, we're able to bring down our cycle times from 8.5 hours to 7 hours, and then from 21 hours worth of work down to 17.5 hours worth. So even though we did make some improvements here, there's still a lot of waste in there that can be eliminated. So we did show some Kaizen bursts, like I said, on the future state map, and that'll show where we can further improve.
For the A3 part of our assignment, we're looking at the service desk wait times and cutting them down at Target. Service desk wait times are currently averaging 4 to 6 minutes per guest and should be much less, as you can see in current conditions in the background. Our goal is to get these down to 2 minutes or less for cycle time. The analysis and the root problem why the problem exists is because the original process was deemed to be sufficient at the time for the customers and the amount of customers and the sophistication of our clients and customers at the time that there was no need to change it or no need to improve it. The recommendation would be that Target can propose a semi-electronic service to help speed up customer wait times at the service desk, either a mobile app or a customer kiosk. The plan would be to develop this new system, train employees, install new interfaces, advertise, test, standardize, and then a full launch, and this would require the research and development team, the retail management team, and the marketing team all to work together to get this going in the matter of less than a year. Follow-up, to ensure plan, do, check, and act, feedback can immediately be gathered from customers as they complete the guest experience surveys, and then we would see that the positive reviews and the shorter wait times would be considered effective implementation. Here we have the master schedule, which would show who is responsible and what task is being completed and begun at one time. Also with a plan, do, check, act to make sure things are working correct and things are on schedule. I'm not going to go through it all, but you can see on the chart when these things are planned.
Looking at the first lean tool, the one major problem that we have at Target is the lack of floor space. So the lean tool that we're going to use is 5S, so that would be perfect for us. So once again, 5S, that's sort, set in, order, shine, standardize, and sustain. So sort, so that would be like sorting all the floor items to determine what stays or what goes. So for example, like seasonal items, making sure those don't stay out longer than they need to. Set in order, so that would just be keeping all those similar items close to each other. So the clothes or the shirts would be with the pants, and the toys would be in their little section. That way people aren't walking all over the store and they can't find their stuff, so everything's kind of grouped up. And then shine, so once we have everything kind of emptied out and sorted, we're going to want to make sure we sweep, we mop, we also dust, so take that time when we have all the shelves kind of empty and stuff. That way we can finally give them a good clean. Then standardize, we're going to keep the shelves clean after each shift, so we're going to want to make sure that employees know that they're in charge of a little section, and then before they go home, they have to make sure that it's up to the way that they found it, or even better. And then finally, sustain. So we're going to train all the employees on how to keep Target organized. So we're just going to make sure that everyone knows what's going on, what goes where, and then what target standards are. So up first, looking at our 3 lean tools that we could do, we're going to be using 5S. So I'm in charge of looking at the return on investment, like the payback period. So for 5S, the return on investment, we came up with training. It's going to be about $9.1 million. And then the way I calculated that is $13 around the average pay for a target employee. And then we think it's going to be about 2 hours for the training course. And then all across all the target stores, there's 350,000 total employees. So I just times all those numbers together, and then I got 9.1 million. And then we're going to think that the gain from the investment is going to be around 3.3 million, which is just 15% of our gross profit. And then that was 22 million in 2018. And then once again, return on investment is the gain from the investment minus the cost of the investment. And then that's divided by the cost of the investment. And then you times that all by 100. So plugging in our numbers right there, the return on investment for the 5S is negative 64%. And then finally, the payback period for 5S is the equation of payback period equals cost of investment divided by the gain from the investment. So we had 9.1 million, that was the cost of the investment, then divided by 3.3 million, which was the gain, equals about 2.75 years, or about 2 years and 9 months. So that's how long we expect for this to finally pay itself back. Lean tool number 2, we're going to be looking at fixing our self-checkouts. So some people think they are a hassle. So visual controls is a great lean tool to use for this. So basically, visual controls is we're going to be using a system of signs, information displays, and also color coding to help our self-checkouts be just more easy and user-friendly to customers, especially older people or people of other languages and stuff. So for example, like we're going to have 20 items or fewer machines on the left, so that would be displayed by a sign, or the 20 items or more machines on the right too as well, so we'd have signs for that too. We're also going to have voice instructions translated in multiple languages too on the machines, so that way if an employee can't get to the customer to help kind of them figure it out, we're also going to have that translated language on there. That way the customer can listen and kind of follow along, as well as we're going to have really big buttons on the machines, and then make sure everything's user-friendly too as well. Then up next, we're going to be looking at the return on investment for our checkout system. So that was one of the other things. We were going to improve all the checkouts, get new installation in there, get new software. So this was going to be a big upfront cost. We predict around $52,569,600 for this. And then the way I configured that is I did 20% of target stores. So 20% of all the target stores in the US is around 370 stores, because we want to focus this in one area first. And we don't want to just throw it all into every single store, because if it doesn't work or if there's glitches, we need to make sure to kind of have a test and make sure to work that out. We think it'll take about 4 hours of installation time. So then we have about $16 per hour we're going to be paying these guys to install these, just because they're going to be a little bit more experienced, so they need a little bit more pay than the average employee. And then finally, we think we're going to have about 2,220 total employees that are going to be installing the software. And I did that, I think I predicted around 4 to 6 employees would be installing each one in the stores, so I just times that by the 370. So all of that, I totaled those all together, got the 52 million. And then the gain from the investment, we think it's just going to be 10% of our gross profit, which is just 2.2 million. Then once again, the return on investment, the equation. So when we type ours in, we get a big return on investment of negative 96%. And then looking at the payback period for the checkouts, so we have the payback period of the 52,569,600. We're going to divide that by the 2.2 million, and then we're going to get around 23.9 years, or we think this is going to be paid off in these Target stores in about 23 years and 11 months. Finally, we want to make Target a hub for online orders, so the lean tool that we're going to be implementing is Kanban. So once again, it's kind of using a visual sorting system to allow us to see what needs to go on the floor and what needs to go out for online orders. So a perfect way to do this is to just use a whiteboard. We're going to make that kind of like a virtual layout of the store. So for example, if the item is moved on the floor, we're also going to need to move it from the whiteboard too. That way it gives the employees an easy overview of what's going on, what's where on the floor or online, or what needs to go out, instead of having to walk the whole floor or look for it, or if someone asks them if someone has something, or if something's in stock. That way they don't have to go, like I said, walk the whole floor and try to find it. So we're going to do our best to make sure and train employees that if something is on the floor, it needs to represent that perfectly on the whiteboard. So we're going to try to get that virtual layout basically almost perfect, and that would be done through training, of course, too. And then our last thing right here, we're going to be doing the order hub. So we're going to be turning Target more into like an order center than like a store. So we're going to make sure we have a section of the store like that. So we thought our training would be about 4,450,000. Then once again, that 13, that's the average hourly pay. This time it's only going to be about an hour required for the training course to teach all the employees how to use this. And then it'll be about 350,000 total employees again across all of our stores. So that's how we get 4,450,000. Then the gain from investment, we're just going to be doing 7% of our gross profit, which once again, 7% of 22 million is 1,540,000. And then plugging that all into the equation, our return on investment is negative 65.4%. And then the payback period for the order hub, plugging all of our numbers in right there. So the 4,450,000 divided by the 1,540,000, we get a small 2.89 years, or we expect to have this paid off in 2 years and 11 months.
Some of the leadership techniques we're looking at using is development planning, communication, and conducting meetings. To link this all together, the lack of floor space would be handled by the 5S being implemented. To go with this, a leadership technique that would need to be used would be development planning, and with this, gaps planning is an example. This is where a target manager would show where they would like to be at the end of a 5S cycle, and they would measure and see if they are where they are supposed to be with the 5S and if all the tasks have been completed. For the self-checkout problem, we already discussed using visual controls to signal to customers, and with that, you need a leadership technique in communication, being communicating the quick and concise information to our customers and also to our employees to signal areas where we can increase the smooth flow of information. To deal with our unloading issue, you need to conduct meetings when you do Kanban and decide if the process is still working and if it's still being efficient, and if it's working, if the whiteboard is keeping updated and whatnot. And again, Kanban signals when there's space on the floor for new products, or it calls from the end of the supply chain back to the inventory. So the meetings would just clear up any confusion and allow people to improve on any ideas.
Moving on to the benefits and drawbacks of these lean tools and leadership techniques that we've talked about. The 5S system is excellent at managing physical items, but the drawback would be that the initial time investment and the time spent to sustain the system and to put the things in place actually might be too much of an obstacle to overcome. The visual controls, it's a great way to sort customers based on their checkout needs, 20 or more items or 20 or fewer items, but it can be difficult to account for individual customer needs if they have special needs that the visual controls might not be able to address. Kanban is a great quick visual reference for information. It gives employees a nice spot to go to real fast to get their information, but you have to keep it updated all the time, otherwise it could propagate misinformation. Development planning refers to the kind of looking at the long-term goals and objectives. It's constantly working towards continuous improvement, but the flip side of that would be it has a slow return on investment because it's looking at the larger, longer-term picture. The communication leadership technique talks about it's quick, concise information. Giving these nice little small packets of information that are easy for people to obtain and digest. But too much information can actually be confusing to customers, so you don't want to over communicate. And then conducting meetings, meetings are great because it gets everyone on the same page, and new information can spread through the company very quickly. But too many meetings is no good because then it wastes time. Time is probably the most valuable resource that everyone has, and we don't want to waste it.
Wrapping things up, Target, it worked very hard to stay on top of trends, listen to their guests, to improve their stores, and also offer more options for their shoppers. Doing this, though, they created a lot of waste, so this whole paper and this project in PowerPoint basically looks at ways to kind of eliminate waste and make Target more lean. So once again, through the whole project, we looked at the current and future state map. We had our assignment 3 on there too. We also had our master schedule as well. We also looked at some of the tools that we could use, as well as some benefits and drawbacks to those. And then we also looked at just kind of what some of the costs would be, the return on investments, and the payback periods too as well. So hopefully overall you enjoyed our group's project and paper. And thank you very much for listening to the whole thing. And we hope you enjoy.